Hello, I'm Bookface, and we are talking about Inuit myth. Inuit myth is fascinating. Okay, I sound awful. I was trying to be like, oh, back straight, voice solid. I'm gonna be professional. No, I'm a loser, and that's why some people occasionally watch me. So we're talking about Inuit myth. Inuit mythology is fascinating in the way that it's very, very widespread. There is a lot of Native American tribes that exist, and most of them had, they had a fairly wide range, but they weren't incredibly spread out. But Inuit myth spans basically all of modern day Canada, Alaska, Greenland, and Denmark. That is a large area, especially considering Canada is enormous. Technically speaking, the range goes through 4 different countries. Which really adds another level of suckiness to the whole colonization thing, which is usually pretty hard to do because colonization already sucks. This was a massive, incredibly widespread culture, and apparently that didn't stop anyone. Okay, that's all my ranting for now, but I will not hesitate to trash talk Europe from the 15th to 18th century. Now, this means the stories vary quite a bit, since you can have the same story over such a long distance. Like I've said before, it's a giant game of telephone, and it always gets a little changed up every time. But a lot of the core elements stay the same. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump right in. Woo! First up, we have Sedna, goddess of the sea and marine animals. Also has a dwarf planet named after her. Between her and Pluto, I think all the cool deities are names for dwarf planets. They're the cooler ones. Get out of here, Jupiter. No one likes you. She was known as the mother of the sea or the mistress of the sea, which seems like a kind of significant difference. Maybe mistress was meant in a different way than how I'm imagining, but the verbiage issue, I'm sure that's the case, but with my current understanding of words and how I use them, odd difference there. She was involved in the Inuit creation myth. I don't know entirely how, but I know she was there. And she rules over the Inuit underworld called Adlavon. Pretty epic. In one myth, she doesn't like all the dudes her dad tries to set her up with, so instead she marries a dog. Okay, so sometimes I like dogs way more than people. Not in that way. Like I said, there's a lot of different versions to the story, but here are some of the core elements that stays the same. The common themes are that she's very often poorly treated by those around her. No matter the story, she really seems to get the short end of the stick. For some reason, she gets thrown into the ocean, which is pretty harsh if you ask me. And she loses her fingers for some reason or another, significantly more harsh. And those severed fingers turn into seals, walruses, and other marine mammals. Alright. Next up we have Nanook, who was the Master of Bears, which is a super epic title. That is one of the coolest titles I have ever heard. Master of Bears. And he decided whether hunters would find bears to kill or whether they'd go home sad. He would also punish people who did these things the wrong way, like not obeying proper hunting rules.
Someone's getting eaten by a bear.
This is why you don't litter. Disrespect the earth disrespects you. He was depicted as a polar bear who sometimes had a kind of humanoid appearance. In honor of Nanook, hunters would take great care to respect the spirits of the bears they killed, often offering them sacrifices of things like weapons, and there's a list, but I didn't write it down for some reason. They thought that polar bears actually allowed themselves to be killed so they could get these offerings. And if a hunter handled the bear's body and all the rites appropriately, then the bear's ghost would tell other living bears, and these bears would be eager to get hunted by that hunter. Kill me. And if they handled the bears improperly, the bears would avoid them. Not survival instinct. The bears just have standards, and you do not meet them. Get rejected. Next up, we have Malina, the sun goddess, linked closely with the moon god Anningan, who is her brother. Cool. I'm sure this will be a wonderful mythological sibling relationship. Those are always completely normal in mythology. There's never been a weird sibling relationship in mythology. Apparently, these two don't really get along so well. So Anningan is chasing Malina across the sky, which is, how the sun and moon thing goes. I wonder what he did. So long story short, they got along real well as kids, and as they got older, they got a little more distant, and oh boy. Anningan started getting some Alabama feelings for her. And that's all I'm gonna say on it. When she realized the situation, she was like, nah, I'm out. I'm out.
Run.
And so she ran away, and he chased her for some reason. To justify, to comfort her, to serenade her with the banjo. Not really sure what his plan was when he caught up to her. All we know is it would probably be incredibly awkward. And an eclipse is actually when he did catch up to her for some amount of time. I really just hope that every eclipse is just a very long period of awkward silence and zero banjos whatsoever. And I'll be listening for him next time there's an eclipse. And then we have 3 deities from Inuit myth. It was interesting looking into Inuit myth. I've always been fascinated with it. Let me know what other mythologies you want to hear from, and let me know if you want to hear about more deities from some of the mythologies I've already covered. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!